plane fare gone up. Even the oil of the woman is good for the man, and the oil of the man is good for the woman. You have man and woman like gas like curse like coconut like cooking like cream like crude oil, miss oil. Who are the owner for the oil? Ship stop sail, plane stop fly, motor no move, mathematician meditation.
52, the oil kept on flowing, and so did the complaints.
I have spent more time fighting the officials of BP and the Coast Guard than fighting the oil.
Billy Nungesser, the president of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, testified at a Senate hearing in Washington. He said BP executives did not know just how bad things are.
There may have been a start when the new guy in charge, Bob, came down and we took his hand and stuck it in the oil and he felt it and asked him, what do you think that feels like on the back of a pelican? He seemed to get it, and that was just the other day. Maybe we'll see some changes. But until you see and go out there and see what it's doing, it scares the hell out of you.
In its now daily update, BP said the containment system on the damaged wellhead collected around 660,000 gallons of oil on Wednesday. That's up slightly from the day before. But it remained unclear what the well's total flow is. Coast Guard Admiral Thad Allen spoke in Washington.
As you might imagine, it's really complicated. We've divided several teams up to take a look at this from different angles, literally different angles. The two basic things we're trying to do are reconcile two views of how the oil might be determined. One of them is overhead using satellite imagery and sensors from NASA aircraft. The other team is actually looking at the oil coming out from the riser pipe and the leaks before themselves. And two different ways to look at that. One of them is actually to analyze the video itself and make some assumptions about what's in that stream. And there's oil, natural gas, water, and sediment.
Thick crude now, man. Looks like thick crude to me. They've skimmed the top of the deposit, and now they're running on thick crude, folks.
To burn off some of the crude.
Now they can burn it because it's pure enough.
They're taking matters into their own hands. Fair Hope, Alabama's city council is spending $650,000 on booms rather than wait for help from BP or the government.
I've been in meetings with BP officials that have made commitments, and they were open-ended commitments. They weren't pushed upon them. They made them freely, and those commitments have not been lived up to.
There were also attempts to address the complaints of damage claims stuck in limbo. National Guardsmen in Alabama helped fishermen, property owners, and businessmen file paperwork, which many say is excessive and putting them on the brink of bankruptcy. Tracy Waring, a government point person on the claims process, said BP has now promised to expedite payments.
BP recognized that their previous approach of waiting until basically after the books have closed for each month to calculate losses will not work. It won't get dollars out quickly enough for the businesses that are struggling on the ground, and they have indicated that they will implement and are implementing a more expedited claims process for these larger loss business claims.
BP also faced mounting pressure from investors. Its stock plunged 11% in London trading today before ending with a loss of 7%. The company's shares rallied in New York after yesterday's 16% loss. Since the spill began, BP has lost half its total worth. Back in Washington, the political pressure kept building. After a White House meeting, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insisted BP will pay everything it owes.
BP must be held accountable. They must be held accountable in terms of the taxpayer. There are expenses that we are incurring as a government that they must pick up.
The House also voted today to eliminate the $100 million limit on how much the Coast Guard can spend on cleanup costs. The disaster began in April when the offshore rig Deepwater Horizon exploded and sank. Today, President Obama met with relatives of the 11 workers killed.
I think we all walked away from our meeting with the president feeling very confident that everything that he can do, he will do.
Mr. Obama also turned again to what to do about energy in the long term.
we have to move on an energy agenda that is forward-looking, that creates jobs, that assures that we are leaders in solar and wind and biodiesel, that recognizes that we are going to be reliant on fossil fuels for many years to come, that we are going to still be using oil, and we're still going to be using other fossil fuels, but that we have to start planning now and putting the infrastructure in place now.
Later, the president met with business leaders to discuss energy reforms.
The plane fare gone up. Even the oil of the woman is good for the man, and the oil of the man is good for the woman. You have man and woman like gas like curse like coconut like cooking like cream like crude oil, miss oil. Who are the owner for the oil? Ship stop sail, plane stop fly, motor no move, mathematician meditation mash up.
Now before I play this, I'm going to say that a lot of good information is on the internet, and you just have to look for it. And you just have to listen carefully to what people are saying. Humans have seeded Mars now. What happens if you put snow on your barbecue that's black and some areas exposed, and then the summer comes again, or the spring, and the snow starts melting? You have water running off your barbecue. Now consider all the devices that NASA's sent to Mars as that barbecue, and some of them have heat sources and some of them have, warmth to them, I would think, still, perhaps. So let's listen to what he has to say about this bacteria on Mars.
You sort of just answered my question, but I was surprised to learn that we don't sanitize most of the components that we send. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I always bring it up because everybody is surprised to learn, because there's a general perception that we sterilize spacecraft. And NASA actually continues to propagate that impression, that we sterilize spacecraft, but we don't. After Viking landed, the National Academy of Sciences and the Committee on Space Research, following the recommendation of the National Academy of Science, said, stop sterilizing spacecraft to Mars. It's not necessary. And so there's a cleanliness standard. So we know that the spacecrafts are pretty clean, cleaner than the kitchen in my house, but they still have bacteria on them. We know that the two rovers each went to Mars with about 100,000 bacteria on those, each of them. And most of those bacteria have been killed by being exposed to Martian UV, but any bacteria inside the spacecraft, they're still alive. They're not growing, but they're viable. They're dormant on Mars. So we know for a fact, it's not even conjecture, we know for a fact that there are Earth bacteria viable on Mars inside Sojourner rover, Pathfinder lander, and the two MERs. Inside, protected from UV, they're still viable, but they're not growing, and they won't ever grow unless they come across an environment with liquid water, which may not happen naturally on Mars, but who knows? So it's an issue. As we start doing more ambitious missions like drilling, we have to worry more about that, because in a drilling mission, drilling down, we might hit liquid water, and then if we contaminated it would be a serious problem, which is why things like the arm or a drill would be sterilized, because they're going separately. So this whole question of cleanliness and planetary protection and forward contamination are issues that we're still working. And when you imagine sending humans to Mars, we certainly can't sterilize them. How do you take that approach? Lake Vostok is a place on Earth where we worry about that as well. Yeah.
So you mentioned that Phoenix is going to get buried in snow. Can we expect photos of like the lander feet covering in snow, or do we expect the instruments to break down before that happens?
Yeah, it's a good question. Will we be able to see the snow coming, or will we die in the cold?
We've already seen snowflakes, right?
No, high in the atmosphere. Yeah. The LIDAR detected snow falling, but we haven't seen any white stuff on the ground. Sort of like living in San Francisco. You can hear about snow, and theoretically it's snowing, but the ground never actually turns white. And that's what we're experiencing so far. So I think my guess is that we will see snow pictures before we lose the spacecraft. In time for Christmas, certainly in time for Christmas, yeah. Yeah, by Christmas time she'll be dead. Yeah, because we're already getting sunsets and darkness, and they're already talking about shutting down various parts of the spacecraft. So by Christmas, we'll probably be no longer talking. Any other questions? No?
Mathematician, meditation, mash up. Are the owners of the oil. Cannibal, cool. Them never wear no clothes. Ku Klux Klan. Go away with the gang. Are the owners of the oil. Rich man a room.